This is Walter Leite, and in this presentation I will talk about survey implementation following Don Dillman's guidelines. So Dr. Don Dillman performed hundreds of experiments about factors that optimize survey response rates, and he found that these are the factors that are most important. So salience of the topic to the respondent, the ease of questionnaire navigation, multiple contacts with the respondent of different types, incentives, also, and you looked at multiple ways of giving incentives, the contact materials that communicate the importance of the survey, and personalization. In the next slides, I will discuss in detail this practice. For internet surveys, Dr. Dillman recommends personalization of every email, combining a modest prepaid incentive with the initial request given to everybody in the sample with the first contact, and send at least 3 reminders of different types. And also the timing of contacts will depend on the type of survey. With internet surveys, the contacts are closer than they would be with mail surveys. And it's important to use more than one mode of contact because some respondents will respond better to certain modes, and also if you change the mode of contact, it communicates the importance of the survey. A simple personalization communicates that the survey is legitimate and it's important. But you should avoid excessive personalization because that may communicate that it's a spam. You know more about the respondent than the respondent is comfortable with you knowing. So, several experiments by Don Dillman showed that cash given to all the respondents, like small amounts, such as $1 bills sent to all respondents, $5 bills, provided the highest response rate, and it should be sent with the cover letter. Electronic gift cards are acceptable substitutes for cash, especially because with internet surveys, it's hard to send cash. It's easier to send electronic gift cards. But you could start an internet survey with a letter with the incentive and follow up with an email, but that's more costly. The research by Don Dillman shows that the prepaid cash incentives create reciprocity framework, and it's not that the respondent is being paid to do the survey, but it's a gesture of goodwill. Dillman recommends this sequence for contacts, starting with pre-notes, email, or letter. It's important that the pre-notes is sent by someone that's recognized by the respondent. So researchers should rarely send a survey with his own name as in the signature. It's usually better to find someone to sponsor the survey, such as a survey of teachers in a school district. It would be better to have the superintendent send the pre-notes letter, or the principal of the school send the pre-notes letter, rather than the researcher himself or herself. particularly if the research is being coordinated by a graduate student. The graduate student should never sign the pre-notes letter. It should be a professor, or even better, someone that is closer to the respondent. The notes that there is a thank you email, but there are also reminders, and reminders ideally should all be different from each other. So if you send 2 reminders by email, they should have very different wording. And it is better if you can change the type of contact by combining email with letters or phone calls. So the pre-notes email should be from someone considered important by the respondent, should have the same title of the survey, and provide the topic importance of the survey, and contact information. And it should mention the timeline, like when the survey will arrive. This is an example of pre-notes email. So it illustrates Dr. Don Dillman's guidelines. So a greeting, a description of the study purpose, a statement of why the survey is important, and here is signed by in this case a former deputy superintendent for the school board of Leite County. The cover letter delivers a survey link, references the pre-notes letter, has to mention the study significance early on. The significance should come on the first paragraph, or else the respondent may stop reading if you don't engage the respondent right away. And it should have clear instructions on how to proceed, such as to click on a link. For surveys for university research, the cover letter will also include information about IRB approval, such as the study number and the number to contact if you have any questions about the study. Now, the cover letter leads to a survey that opens in a browser. Now, it's also possible to have a survey in the same message as the cover letter. However, that is rarely used. It's usually better to use survey software because you have better control of the response process. Okay. So this is an example of a cover letter. Notes that there is a mention of what the survey is about and why it's important. And the second paragraph explains why that person is being contacted. This is important because a respondent will wonder, why me, right? Why should I be responding to this? And it gives how to respond and how much time it will take, and reiterates the importance, and then provides the contact information. Reminders should be sent only to non-respondents, but thank you cards are sent to respondents. The reminder restates the importance of the survey. The reminder should be clearly discernible from the cover letter. The logic here is that the respondent may have overlooked the cover letter. This should look different to catch attention. from the respondent, and the reminders should be 3 to 5 days apart, because more than that, with online surveys, the respondent will forget that they received a survey. It's interesting to look at the response patterns for internet surveys. When you send a reminder, you get a spike of responses immediately, and then a little bit in the second day. By the third day, it completely died down. Nobody really waits until the third day for internet surveys. And that's why 3 or at most 5 days is ideal for reminders for internet surveys. Now, for mail surveys, you can wait a week, especially because the mail survey takes longer to be received, and it will stay longer in the respondent's mind because it's a physical survey. But it's important to have reminders 3 to 5 days, but not to close. And in the morning, it's best because the respondent sees the contact at the top of the mailbox and is able to act on it. Dillman notes that most responses arrive within 24 hours of each email, and then it flattens. Right, so this is an example here. Responses over time. Each sharp increase here is a reminder that was sent, and then after that, no response, or rarely a response. That's typical of surveys. So these are some guidelines from Dillman about internet survey implementation. You keep email contacts as short as possible, to the point, but as long as it contains the necessary information, both the guidelines of survey importance and why the person is receiving the survey, how to respond, but also requirements from IRB if it's an academic survey. Personalization is important, but don't overdo it so that it's perceived as spam. Use the respondent's name in the subject line if you have it, and try to be consistent with format. Now, a mistake that sometimes happens is that researchers will repeat the cover letter or part of the cover letter in the actual survey, and that's not necessary. Cover letter comes by email. There needs to be no cover letter in the actual survey. Like when they click on the survey, click on the link in the cover letter, it should go straight to question 1. You don't need anything else there because information that was the introductory information was already provided in the cover letter. Now, if there are specific instructions, it's actually best to put them closer to the question where they are needed, unless they are instructions that apply to the entire survey, and then you can put them on top. These ways. These are some ways that will help the survey not to be flagged. Encrypted and personalized URLs are helpful to the researcher because you know that who clicked or didn't click on the survey. However, they may be flagged as spam. It's important to test your method. A pilot study would help with this to make sure that the survey is being received and not being flagged as spam. Most systems like Qualtrics allow you to customize the from line, so you specify which mailbox the survey is coming from, and it should use an email address that communicates professionalism, so an email address that's from an institution, not a personal email address, definitely not at gmail.com. And so communicating legitimacy through the email is really important. These are some guidelines. Assigning a unique ID, if it's an internet survey, the software like Qualtrics handle this automatically, so the researcher doesn't need to worry about this. It's important to do some testing to understand how messages are handled by the survey servers such as Qualtrics. Plan in advance what will be done about bounced emails. If you have a secondary way to send a survey such as mail, you could put that as a alternative procedure. How you deal with incentives that are returned, and how we will deal with responses to increase. Someone should be monitoring the mailbox given in the cover letter to respond to the surveys. That monitoring should be done daily. Also, surveys should always end up with a thank you question that has an open-ended field, and someone should be monitoring the responses to that open-ended field every day during the implementation, because someone may point out a problem with the survey in that last question, that it's an open-ended field after the thank you message. And if the response is monitored every day, someone will see that problem and fix it. It should be fixed right away. So there are two types of login to internet survey. The most common is the automatic login. Alternatively, a short personal identification number can be provided. Automatic login is more convenient for the researcher and the respondent, but depending on the situation, such as maybe preventing the message for being flagging as spam, you may want to use the manual login. The manual login is definitely used if you are sending a mail letter with the web address, and then you have to provide the PIN. So for a mail survey, contacts are similar to the internet survey. Send a pre-notes letter, questionnaire mailing, thank you postcard, replacement questionnaire, and final contact of a different mode. That final contact ideally should be a stronger mode, so you typically don't do a final contact of a mail survey with an email, because the email is a weaker contact. A stronger contact for a mail survey would be either a registered letter with signature confirmation or phone call. So the pre-notes letter for a mail should be 1 page. It states that questionnaire will arrive soon, and lists a contact number. It does not request immediate action. It prepares the respondents for the arrival of survey. Again, just like internet survey, this is the pre-notes letter for a mail survey. Ideally should be signed by someone that is close to the respondent, and particularly in the letterhead of organization that the respondent respects. So getting sponsorship is important. So for example, if a academic researcher is doing a survey of mental health counselors, you could get sponsorship from the American Counseling Association and have a board member or officer of the American causality associations. Send the pre-notice letter or sign the pre-notice letter and have them in the letterhead for the organization. And that would be, improve response rates as compared to the researcher signing the letter. Here is an example pre-notice letter with its parts, show you what will happen, and the objective, importance, thank you, signature, which ideally should not be from the survey director but someone closer to the respondent, and a mention of the incentive, if incentive will be sent to all respondents. For the questionnaire package, the envelope should contain the letter on top, the questionnaire, a stamped return envelope, and the prepaid incentive. And this arrangement ensures that the respondent sees the request. It's a manila envelope is actually very helpful for this because spam doesn't use manila envelopes like the brown envelopes. And you can use the cover letter, fold it like a taco with a questionnaire, return envelope, and incentive as the filling, and that will keep things together. And because if you just stack, it may be that the incentive, like a $1 bill, gets stuck to the inside of the envelope and the respondent doesn't see it. So using the cover letter to folding it over the contents is a way to prevent that from happening. I recommend doing testing, like get the envelope, stuff it, close it, then ask someone to open it and pull the contents, see how they see it. Also, make sure you put the contents in the way that they see it first. Here, an example of a cover letter, and it is similar to the cover letter for an internet survey that you mentioned earlier, and again mentions the usefulness right on early, the reason for selection, confidentiality, contact information, any information from IRB that's required if it's an academic survey, and thank you. And this is a short survey, short cover letter because it had to fit the screen, but typically will be a bit longer than this. Postscript is used in the cover letter to mention that there is a token of incentive inserted. Thank you for the participate, or if there was if you're not sure about eligibility, you can recognize it there. Typically you say that if you are not eligible, so for example, if you are surveying teachers and you are not sure that all the contacts you have in the sampling frame are teachers, you can say, if you are not a teacher, please return the blank survey. It's important that they return the survey, so you know that they are not eligible, because if they don't do that, you don't know if they just chose not to respond or they're ineligible. So them returning the mail questionnaire helps you differentiate between ineligible and non-respondent. So meta-analysis of survey studies show the prepaid cash amounts such as 1 to 5 yield the highest gain in response rates. Material gifts, gift cards, are less effective. And promised incentives are less effective, even less effective. Drawing of prizes are less effective, contribute to charity also. Now, increasing the prepaid money incentive increases response rate, but there is a diminishing return. There is a point where the thinking by the respondent switches from understanding that monetary incentive as a gesture of goodwill to understanding it in terms of payment for services. So, for example, if you send a $1 bill or $2, $5, they will understand it as a gesture of goodwill. $50, they will understand as payment. Moral incentives, it has been shown that promise incentives don't work as well as incentives to all respondents. They are less effective, and also offering prizes is not effective, and they may go against some regulations. So, for example, university surveys, universities usually object to offering prizes. Particularly IRB objects to offering prizes. Now, it may be tricky to track if it's an academic survey. It's possible to send paid incentives, but gift cards are usually better. Research universities will have a system for sending gift cards. It will be more complicated to send cash, but if it's not an academic organization, then it would be straightforward to go to a bank and get crispy $1 bills from the bank to use in the survey. For packaging, brown envelopes work well because, again, spam mailings don't use that. Never use a phrase like open it immediately. It has to make it look official. So use the name of the sponsor. If there is a logo of the sponsor, put it on it. Make it clearly distinguishable from spam. And use labels, which is a bit easier than printing directly on the envelope. Always use first class mailing. You don't want to use book rate because it will be less certain about when the respondent will receive the mail. Also, a first class postage communicates the importance of the survey and resembles less spam mail, because those usually use the book rate. And always use a real stamp also in the return envelope, because again, it's another way to show that the survey is important. Test the assembling, that everything should come out together. So here is an idea, like place an incentive on top of the questionnaire, then the envelope behind it, fold the cover letter and close the alternate components like a burrito. Or you can fold the cover letter as a Z shape and enclose the other components within it. You can use stickers, but make sure you test several times to ensure that everything is coming out together and nothing is getting stuck to the envelope. This is a survey of schedule of contact, and pre-notes the letter is 3 to 5 days. Then the questionnaire, then thank you postcard 1 week after the questionnaire. Notes that this is 1 week is more than what you use for internet survey, because for a mail survey you have to allow the delivery time. They replace the questionnaire 1 week after the thank you postcard, and the final contact 2 or 3 weeks after the replacement questionnaire. Again, it takes longer with mail survey, but at least it stays in memory. It's a physical survey rather than the internet, so it is a longer data collection timeline than with internet surveys. This is an example of thank you postcard. You can use images, print black and white, maybe something that is related to the topic. We'll put in the survey. And here there is an offer to replace the questionnaire. The replacement questionnaire, just like a reminder. You include a reminder that to respond to the survey and provide the questionnaire, state the eligibility, state the importance, and provide a contact if there are any problems. Final contact ideally should be of a stronger mode, so it could be certified mail with signature confirmation, letter delivered by private companies, which are more visible than USPS mail, or by phone, which is a stronger contact. Now, you have to decide, is the phone call just a reminder, or is the phone call an attempt to collect a response? If the phone call is an attempt to collect a response, this would make it a mixed mode survey, which is more difficult because you have to make sure that the survey implemented by phone is equivalent to the survey implemented by mail. Okay, so it's easier in this case for the phone call to just be a reminder. And then in the phone call, you would ask if they have a questionnaire or if you need to send a replacement.